Did you know there's a version of Dragon's Dogma that most players have never touched? Not because it's bad, but because it was never accessible by most of the world. Capcom was quietly running a Dragon's Dogma MMO in Japan. It had large scale co op, real time combat, climbing, massive monsters, and a live service roadmap that lasted for years. However, there was no English release and no other servers other than Japan. Dragon's Dogma Online existed as a full MMO built on one of Capcom's most interesting RPG systems, locked behind region walls and language barriers. Today, it's almost completely gone. So, how did a game this ambitious end up so isolated? Why did Capcom keep it in Japan? And what does Dragon Dogma Online tells us about MMOs reaching a broader market? Dragon's Dogma, released in 2012 by Capcom for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It's an open-world action RPG where players assume the role of the Arisen, a prophesized hero whose heart is stolen by a dragon, embarking on a quest across the lands of Grancis. The story begins in the village of Casardis, where a dragon attacks, marking the player as the Arisen destined to confront otherworldly threats and uncover cycles of fate involving dragons. Despite critical acclaim for its ambition, the game achieved moderate commercial success, shipping 1 million units worldwide in its first month of release, with lifetime sales reaching approximately 2.3 million units across the series by mid-2015, transitioning from modest launch figures to a cult status via word of mouth and re-releases like Dark Arisen. Dragon's Dogma distinguished itself through dynamic physics-based combat emphasizing climbing massive enemies like griffins and cyclopses to target weak points, blending Monster Hunter-style group tactics with hack-and-slash fluidity. Vocations, which are classes in the game, offer deep customization via discipline points that allows unlocks for skills and augments for strategic depth, with players switching freely between classes. Encounters demanded party coordination against beasts that enrage over time, rewarding plays like grabbing airborne foes or using environmental hazards. Another feature unique to Dragon's Dogma is the pawn system, which revolutionized companionship in gaming, enabling one main pawn's creation and recruitment of two supports from online players or NPCs via riftstones, with borrowed pawns gaining knowledge of enemy weaknesses and quests upon returning to their original owners. Pawns learn behaviors like healing priorities and climbing aids, providing tips and adapting via inclinations, while features like the Dragon's Plague add risk-reward in Dragon's Dogma 2. This asynchronous multiplayer fostered a community without direct interaction, enhancing replayability as pawns level with owners and carry gear. Okay, so we have a bit of a backstory about Dragon's Dogma in general. Now, let's take a look at how Capcom took a major risk with creating Dragon's Dogma Online. In the mid-2010s, Capcom pursued MMOs amid free-to-play trends, launching Dragon's Dogma Online in Japan only for the PS3, PS4, and PC. Dragon's Dogma Online hit 1 million downloads in 10 days, showing that Dragon's Dogma suited MMO adaptation. With its vast world for instance raids, pawn system for pseudo-multiplayer, and vocation flexibility for parties. The game placed players in the role of an Arisen, serving the White Dragon in a new continent of Lestania, featuring an open world initially comparable in size to the original game but planned to expand up to 3 times larger through updates. The game's development leveraged Capcom's MT framework engine, with director Kento Kinoshita, producer Mine Matsukawa, and executive producer Hiroyuki Kobayashi at the helm, building on the original's action combat while introducing MMO elements. Monetization relied on microtransactions for convenience items, with the attempt to avoid pay-to-win mechanics to preserve the core experience. Cross-platform play between PS3, PS4, and PC was supported, enhancing accessibility. Collaborations with titles like Persona 5 and Berserk added crossover content, boosting engagement. Combat retained Dragon's Dogma's action-oriented, non-targeted style with monster climbing and party-based encounters. Parties of 4 players or AI pawns tackled instance zones, with towns supporting 100 players for matchmaking. Raids required 8 players, emphasizing role balance. The Holy Trinity, of course. Unlike traditional tap-targeted MMORPGs such as World of Warcraft, which emphasize scripted rotations and auto-attacks, Dragon's Dogma Online retained real-time, physics-driven combat with momentum-based movement and toned ragdoll effects optimized for multiplayer stability. This hybrid approach prioritized positioning, timing, and environmental interaction over spamming your skills, setting it apart in a market dominated by grind-heavy quest hubs and skill cooldown management. The game's core loop revolved around cooperative takedowns of colossal monsters like Colossus and Lindworms, where players exploited physics for grabs, throws, and climbs, fostering chaos absent of rigid tap-targeted systems. The pawns were redesigned for online play. Players created up to 3, with customizable gear, skills, and behavior, while learning from owners and rating systems in combat. Pawns handled crafting and gaining XP from summons. However, there was no traditional PvP, and the focus of the game remained on PvE. Vocations expanded on the originals like Fighter, Hunter, and Priest, with MMO exclusive additions like Shield Sage, Alchemist, and High Scepter. Progression used skill trees per vocation, with Dragon Force augmentation trees, and like the original, vocations can be changed at any time while retaining augments. Dragon's Dogma Online innovated on the series with multiplayer action combat, redesigned pawns, and expansive content, achieving early success. On paper, Dragon's Dogma Online's appeal leveraged its cult fanbase, with free-to-play allowing for a lower entry bar and consistent post-launch expansions. Yet, it never reached the Western market. Even with Dragon Dogma Online reaching its 1 million downloads in the first 10 days and peaking at 100,000 simultaneous players, Capcom confirmed there was going to be no Western release, citing a focus on the Japanese market. And this could be because, at the time, the Western MMO landscape post-2014 saw significant contractions, with dominant titles like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, and Guild Wars 2 saturating the market and deterring new entrants. WoW's subscriber base peaked at 12 million in 2010, but declined to under 5 million by 2015, while Final Fantasy XIV's A Realm Reborn revival in 2013 captured much of the remaining audiences. Publishers grew cautious, with new MMOs like WildStar failing commercially, leading to shutdowns within a year due to high development costs exceeding $100 million. Dragon Dogma's Online 2015 launch coincided with this risk-averse environment, where Capcom prioritized proven single-player titles over uncertain global MMO investments. Whilst Dragon's Dogma earned cult acclaim for its pawn system and open-world combat, It sold only 1.3 million units initially, far below Capcom's 7 million target for similar titles. Unlike Monster Hunter, it lacked mainstream franchise status, limiting global adaptation potential. Capcom viewed Dragon's Dogma Online as a core title for Japan, but global servers required separate infrastructure, and the niche appeal didn't justify costs amid the declining MMO market at the time. Also, Dragon's Dogma Online's free-to-play model had heavy gacha elements, primarily for acquiring powerful gear, costumes, and potentially rare items, which was a significant part of its free-to-play monetization, and it suited Japan's tolerance for microtransactions, unlike Western MMOs that prefer $40 amounts. So, Dragon's Dogma Online stayed exactly where it was, in Japan. And, like most things, it must come to an end. Despite its initial success with over 1 million downloads in its first 10 days, servers officially shut down on December 5th, 2019, marking the end of 4 years of service. Capcom's official statement cited difficulties in continuously providing satisfactory service, implying declining players' numbers, maintenance costs, and profitability issues as key factors. This minimalistic explanation drew criticism for lacking transparency, especially given the game's cult following, along international fans who played the game via unofficial English patches. The decision aligned with Capcom's pivot to single-player hits, redirecting resources away from MMOs. This shutdown halted mid-season development, with producers confirming Season 4 concepts like Sinking Continent and Water Dragon with gameplay cycle overhauls. Dragon's Dogma Online's 2019 shutdown epitomized challenges for niche MMOs. Capcom built something genuinely ambitious, an action MMO that trusted players with physics-driven combat, flexible classes, and a shared world built around cooperation instead of competition. It ran for years, evolved through updates, and proved that Dragon's Dogma's world could work beyond a single-player experience. But outside of Japan, it was never given a chance. Dragon's Dogma Online became a quiet success in one region, and a complete what-if everywhere else. And that's the biggest disservice Capcom did to the game. Today, it survives through old footage, fan memories, and private servers. No offline mode, and no official service. Do you think that if Dragon's Dogma Online came outside of Japan alone, it would do well? It might do well in China, who knows? But I guess we'll never know. What do you think? Would you actually have played Dragon's Dogma Online? I did when it first released in Japan, and it was a lot of work to get around, and I couldn't understand what was going on. At that point, the English patch wasn't really that good, and I just couldn't be bothered with the high ping. But let me know down in the comments down below if you would have played Dragon's Dogma Online. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And see you in the next one.